If you're someone who's been following the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, but have struggled to always implement and apply his teachings, this video is for you. And this video is the last on my series of takeaways from the Eckhart Tolle retreat in Whistler, Canada. One of the things I find most humbling about a concentrated retreat experience, especially one as impactful and powerful as Eckhart's, is that it creates a kind of mirror that reflects back to you where you are in that moment. It gives you space to slow down, to get quiet. And in that kind of stillness, you're able to see things. Sometimes beautiful things, and sometimes things that are harder to sit with. My journey began through the lens of 12-step recovery. And so looking at a mirror has always been a big part of what I consider my spiritual awakening. Over the last 10 years, seeing my own patterns more clearly has been one of the most impactful tools on my spiritual path, and it continues to be so today. So I want to share 3 patterns that I saw in myself at this retreat, not because I've solved them, but because I found that naming what I can see is always the first step. And if you've been on a healing path for a while, you might recognize a version of these in yourself. May it serve our collective awakening. Pattern 1 that I left this retreat seeing more clearly in myself: assuming instead of asking. I often assume I know what someone close to me is feeling without asking them, especially in my relationship with my husband. I've done a lot of awareness work, and I have a lot of intuitive ability to see my own emotions and also map other people's emotions. I have a very quick, highly confident internal read on what especially my husband is experiencing emotionally, and I often act on that or react to that read without checking it. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not right. And the times I'm not right, I've already built an entire internal response to something that was not even real. The times when I am right, me seeing what's happening in him isn't able to fix the problem anyway. And sometimes the fact that I feel like I can see it creates more of a problem, because there's a part of me that wants to go in and fix it. Most of us who've been in close relationship for a long time develop a kind of shortcut with each other. You'll see this in couples. We think we know. And knowing without asking is a way that we stay in our heads, in our story or narrative, rather than actually being present with the other person. This is something I still get caught in, even after 10 years of practicing and teaching others about these tools. Presence requires not knowing. It requires real curiosity, not the performed curiosity of asking a question I already think I know the answer to, leading the witness, but genuine, open, I do not know what is happening for you right now. Please tell me. Pattern number 2 I saw in myself after this retreat was taking responsibility for other people's pain. As a longtime mindfulness practitioner and an empath, I still take on responsibility for other people's negative emotions, inwardly, quietly, sometimes automatically. When someone near me is in pain, there's a part of me that immediately moves into, I need to fix this, or at minimum, I need to make sure that I am not contributing to this. That's a pattern that goes very deep. Those of you who are people pleasers with me or tend to be more codependent, you understand this is a survival pattern that made a lot of sense at some point in my life. And if I'm not aware, it still kicks in with very little warning. The reason it matters is that that pattern keeps me from being truly present with someone in their pain. Because if I'm busy managing the feeling that their pain is somehow my fault or my responsibility, I'm not actually there with them. I'm in my own head doing damage control, stuck in thinking. Pattern number 3, spiritual ego. The third one is sometimes the hardest to admit, but I think it is the most important. And I think it's something that's very common for people who are on this kind of a long-term spiritual path. It's spiritual ego. I've been on this mindful path for over a decade now. And a lot of the time, I feel like I'm doing really well. And I use the tools in my life, and the tools have blessed my life. The fruits have been really good in my own personal well being, in my relationships, in my children, and how my path and these tools has impacted their development and our relationship. However, there are times when I still struggle emotionally, that I still get triggered, that my pain body still activates, that a fear crops up, that I'm not always fully integrated, makes me unqualified to do the work that I feel called to do in this mindfulness space, that it's evidence that I should not be in the teaching seat. And at this retreat, Eckhart named this, and he often does in his teachings if you've been following him. And I felt the recognition like a gentle reminder. Oh yeah, spiritual ego. That judgment of myself for not being further along, or the sense of building an identity around myself as a mindfulness teacher, the belief that my struggles are evidence of failure rather than evidence that I'm human, or that there's some sort of identity that I either need to continue to prove or protect. Now, early on in my healing path, this ego was blaring. I write about it in my memoir, Undone Unafraid. The version of myself I call the bright and shiny self. The one who in my younger life was always performing, who was so competent, always one step ahead, always making sure everyone around her was comfortable and impressed. And for a long time in my life, before my rock bottom and before this shift into a different way of living, I thought that was leadership. I thought that was strength. And what I came to understand through Eckhart's teachings, through my own experience, through the 12-step recovery process, is that that part of me was ego. The ego's deep irrational fear that the real me, the struggling, still figuring it out, still getting triggered me was not acceptable, not enough, not qualified. And the bright and shiny performance was how I kept that fear quiet. And it worked until it didn't. That's what rock bottom was for me. That's what it is for most people. The point in your life where that coping strategy that's keeping all those balls juggling in the air falls apart, and you're left face to face with your powerlessness, having to face the parts of yourself that you're most afraid to look at. And that judgment, that fear, is itself a manifestation of ego. That's why it's sometimes hard to acknowledge that 10 years down the road, with all of this spiritual work, this healing work behind me, that ego still shows up, sometimes dressed in spiritual clothing, attaching my practice in some sneaky way to my worth, which creates a lot of fear and muddies the water as far as the results of that work and practice in myself and in what I'm trying to create. The irony is that my own struggles are exactly what make me qualified, not as an excuse to stay stuck, not as a reason to stop growing, but in the way that being genuinely in this work of being a human evolving, rather than above that work as some sort of imagined image of a human who's already arrived. Being unapologetically in the work with the people I journey with is what allows me to meet other people who are in it with real presence rather than theory. Over the years, as a person who has devoted their life to this work, what I keep learning slowly and imperfectly is that the goal is not to be beyond the struggle. It's to be honest and accepting of every part of myself through the struggle, to see it clearly, to say, yes, I'm still here. I'm still learning. I'm still a beginner in the most important things. And that beginner's mind is not weakness. It is, I believe, the closest thing to wisdom any of us will ever have access to. If you've been on this path, this healing path for a while, and you still catch yourself doing any of these things, assuming you know what other people are thinking or feeling, judging yourself when you struggle because you should be further along with all the work that you've done, I want you to know, me too, You're not alone. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are in the work. And the work is ongoing. It's a lifetime practice. That is not a problem. That is just what it means to be human and awake at the same time. I'm Becky Moeller. Thank you for being on this Eckhart Tolle retreat series with me. If any of these videos have resonated, I would love to have you explore more at beckymoeller.com or connect with me at Undone Academy at Instagram. The work that I have felt called to do is this framework to hold these teachings in a container that people can integrate into their lives on a daily practice and journey in community in a really personal way. We meet weekly on Zoom. I'm at every meeting, and we focus on one tool, one principle, one practice at a time as we continue to grow, evolve, and deepen our capacity to love, to see clearly, and to make healthy choices that serve us, others, and the world. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. May this message serve our awakening. Namaste.